I think our mimetic desire and our, our code that seeks validation stopped the revolution of anonymous posting. But also, when you signed up for an AOL chat room 15 years ago, you wouldn't dream of using your real name, right?
No, mostly because it was little boys talking to other little boys, being like pretending, some of them pretending to be girls. Like, that's all you're sitting there doing is a bunch of little boys playing there.
Yeah, so we've come full circle almost. Like, we don't trust the internet. We don't put our real names on the internet, to like everybody puts everything on the internet, and then back to, hey, remember when we used to like put our names on the internet? That was crazy. And I think a lot about, like, curious for your take on this, like posting your kids on the internet. Like, we've made a decision, we're not going to do that. And there's like stuff going on in Europe where people are like suing their parents for documenting 15 years of their life without their consent on the internet. So just crazy implications. I don't know.
I'm totally with you on that. Like, we have one photograph of Violet that we put on Facebook for like friends, and almost the moment I did it, I regretted it. Like, I was like, there's something to be celebrated, like Ann and I's wedding, right? Then like everybody that was friends with me and friends with her now knows, like, oh, these two people are married. But with the baby, it's in a way putting their DNA up there, right? It's like, you've just put their facial structure up there. And I don't think you can prevent it, because it's not like you can jump in front of other people taking photographs of your baby. But I think you're probably right that in the future we will have software that says if this child's not over 18, we're going to automatically blur their faces so that way they have anonymity. Something like that is going to happen, because these poor kids, that their parents are getting magic internet points off of putting thousands of their photographs on there. To me, I'm always like, ooh, you are taking a gamble on something you don't understand.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I mean, just having like intentionally used the internet to grow a business in the last couple of years, it really changes I think it changes your relationship to your internet identity. Like, when I was in college or, school or whatever, it's just like, you just have it to stay in touch with your friends, like organize going out for a beer on a Friday night. It's like, I could not care less about what's posted up there, or just did not even cross my mind. But now we've crossed we crossed the bridge, and it's fallen down into the ravine behind us. It's like, this is you now. Like, make sure that you act, I
always kind of wondered about, like, you're in a unique position to be able to talk about this, because you went from being a guy that helps brands, which means your creative work stood behind a giant corporation. And in fact, if Jack Butcher shows up in the back, it'd be like you photobombed your own work.
Right.
Whereas Visualize Value is not inextricably linked, but definitely people associate the two. Jack Butcher in his white t-shirt with his scruffy face, and Visualize Value. And you became a celebrity in a way, or at least asymmetrical information, where a lot of people knew you and you didn't know those people. And that had to change how you viewed being a citizen of the internet.
It's weird, man. Like, I've walked around the park in Nashville, and it's like, oh, I know Visualize Value. Like, people stop you on the street. It's like, that is weird. That gets weird. I mean, like, I'm sure a lot of people talk about this. David Perel, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So he talks about this idea of niche fame. So it's like, if you can stay in this world where, you're a subject matter expert or whatever, and it's like people who just love the project you're working on know you, that is like an acceptable level of fame in inverted commas. But as soon as, like, traditional fame and celebrity is like a horrible way to live, right? You can't go to Whole Foods, like, people are taking pictures of you and stuff like that. So, like, I don't think there's any danger of crossing that line, making graphics on the internet. Like, if you go on a reality TV show or something of that nature, it's like, it's such an asymmetric thing, right? You're betting. I'm just not of a headspace that would take that risk, where it's like, I'm gonna be known for X for the rest of my life if it isn't inextricably linked with, or isn't if I'm in control of the narrative, I guess is a different way to think about it. Like visualized value, I control what that stands for, and I'm like, I'll put my name on it versus, being so famous that people speculate about your behavior and,
yeah, it almost comes full circle with the NFT, right? Like when you become a celebrity, the reason that so many people get invested in that is other people make money off of your brand, right? They mix their brand with your brand and all of these things, and it becomes this weird ecosystem. And I think you're right. I think there was a time when we were growing up, to be Mr. T level famous or, Rocky or any of these things seemed really good from afar because there were gatekeepers. But if every single person has that camera to be like, I can make social benefit from grabbing photographs of you, then all of a sudden you get into this weird fishbowl where everywhere you go, the world is warped around you because people can derive value from having seen you. But the niche fame doesn't have that effect, right? It allows you to meet people that are interested in the things you're interested in without having to pay the tragedy of the commons toll kind of idea.
I mean, ideally that's the case. Yeah. And I think it's one of these subconscious things that we strive for, acceptance and validation. It's like, I want to be valuable, but there are layers beneath that that I think are driven by some deeper human thing, right? Everybody wants to be heard. And if you have a tool that can carry your voice to millions of people, then, I think that just accelerates the behavior, and can incentivize the wrong stuff too. I read about, there's this great Twitter profile I follow, and this guy's like, I make YouTube videos because I love, playing guitar and just messing about and putting my stuff out there. And I look at the YouTube analytics, and all they want me to do is make productivity videos. It's like, hey, you should make videos against this keyword, right? If you want to monetize your stuff and make more money. So there's this like pull of like commercial incentives that get people to do things that they otherwise wouldn't do or aren't interested in. And I think that is kind of the foundation of unhappiness, right? Is when there's this incentive pulling you in a direction that you didn't want to be pulled in. And I think we're all subject to that.
I find this exactly. So, I'm totally of the Jungian idea that your curiosity is the only compass that your inner self has to tell you, like, that's the direction you should be heading in.
Agreed.
And I know the type of people that I can interview will get way, way more views because the audience likes it. But I find that, like, I'm bored is not maybe a fair way to say it, but I'm certainly not, my curiosity is not like ping.
Right.
And it's really hard because then you've got to have this like, well, I can't just run around and only follow my curiosity because the financial benefit isn't there. But if I only do this, then I might as well be in jail because like, I'm having to do something that's completely boring, and that's the problem with jail, right? It's there's no new information coming in, and that to me is the fastest path to depression that I can find.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel incredibly fortunate that visualized value turned out the way it did. It was like an outlet for expression and curiosity, and the internet made it possible to, commercialize that in a sense, or use it as a vehicle to meet people. And it wouldn't have happened without that. But also, there are things that I know I could do differently that would grow it faster, get different people involved with it. And even when I do them and it works, I'm like, I had that like feeling in the back of my mind that maybe this was not the most consistent thing and it's not the thing that I want to be doing. And the good feedback does not make up for the fact that I, went against my instinct. So yeah, long-winded way of saying I agree. Like you, as soon as you stop following your curiosity, even if, I think that's the definition of like, you said depression. It's like being in a job or a role that you're just punching the clock to earn a paycheck, right? And it's any environment you operate in, I think you can drift towards that. Even if you're seemingly independent, there are all these external incentives that can pull you in directions that you never intended to go.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you always get notified about this podcast. And if you're really interested in conversations like this, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. To find out more, go to network.articulate.ventures.